So imagine you were just, walking through a quiet supermarket parking lot,
Right.
and you hear a car pulling up behind you. But it isn't the rumble of a combustion engine.
Because it's an EV, obviously.
Exactly. But it's also not that generic kind of ghostly hum that most electric vehicles make to warn pedestrians either.
Oh, yeah, the standard spaceship noise.
Yeah, not that at all. Instead, you hear this custom low-speed warning sound that was literally composed by the legendary French electronic musician Jean-Michel Jarre.
Which is just so incredibly cool. I mean, it immediately tells you that the engineers behind the wheel didn't just pull parts from a standard bin, they wanted to make an entrance.
It really is. It's such a quirky, distinctively French introduction to the world of the new Renault Scenic E-Tech. So, welcome to this deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, our mission today is to figure out if this newly reimagined 100% electric family SUV actually has what it takes to stand out in an absolutely flooded EV market.
And it is flooded.
It is. But this car just snagged the incredibly prestigious Car of the Year 2024 award, and well, we need to know why.
Beating out some absolute titans of the industry to get there, too, which is no small feat.
Right. And to figure out how Renault pulled this off, we have an excellent stack of sources to go through for you today. We're looking at official press releases straight from the Geneva Motor Show,
The primary source, yeah.
plus a really comprehensive Australian review of the car. And honestly, my favorite part, the spicy, highly technical comments section from EV enthusiasts who have just been tearing these specs apart online.
They do not hold back in the comments.
They never do. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the vibe of the car itself. Because that avant-garde sound on the outside is just a hint of what is happening on the inside.
The cabin design is arguably the battleground where family vehicles are won or lost today. It's so crucial.
And lately, the current trend for EV interiors feels almost, hostile to families.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's all very cold.
Exactly. Automakers are building these sterile hospital waiting rooms or these minimalist spaceships where you can't even figure out how to adjust the mirrors without tapping through, like, 3 submenus on a giant iPad.
Which is incredibly frustrating when you're just trying to drive.
Right. But the Scenic E-Tech seems to be actively rebelling against that. It feels much more like a thoughtfully designed, eco-friendly living room.
What's fascinating here is the psychology behind those design choices. The sources note that the aesthetic leans heavily into recycled fabrics and softer matte finishes.
Instead of just hard plastics and screens.
Exactly. Automakers know that buyers expect environmental mindfulness today, sure, but Renault is also actively trying to reduce cognitive load.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, a softer, fabric-heavy cabin actually absorbs sound better and feels less demanding on the eyes than a cabin full of glossy reflective screens and harsh ambient lighting.
It actually has some character. And the tech they did include, well, it actually works. It features a 12-inch vertical touchscreen, but the crucial detail is that it has Google built in.
A massive relief for anyone who hates native car software.
Seriously?
Yes.
You aren't fighting with some clunky proprietary system that drops your Bluetooth every 5 minutes. But my absolute favorite detail, and it's honestly a little sad we even have to celebrate this, is the return of the physical button.
Oh, you are talking about the climate control toggles.
Yes. Sitting right below that screen, having a tactile switch to turn down the AC without taking your eyes off the road is a massive safety and sanity feature.
It really is.
It proves the designers are actually thinking about the driver's attention, not just how sleek the dashboard looks in a glossy brochure.
And that intense focus on practical family living is deeply rooted in Renault's DNA. If we look back to 1996, Renault essentially invented the compact MPV.
The multi-purpose vehicle.
Right. For anyone unfamiliar, the MPV was the European precursor to the modern minivan. It prioritized vertical space, modular seating, and clever storage over, aerodynamics or aggressive styling.
So the Scenic nameplate carries a lot of historical weight for European families.
It really does. The 1996 Renault Scenic completely changed the automotive landscape over there. By building this new 100% electric fifth generation on that specific heritage, Renault is deploying a very deliberate strategy.
To stand out from the pack.
Yeah, they're trying to offer a sanctuary from the aggressive, hyper-performance EVs flooding the market.
Which brings us to the back seat. Because if you have kids, the back seat is the ultimate proving ground.
Oh, absolutely. It's make or break.
And Renault put something back there that is just brilliant. The review calls it a command center. The rear armrest folds down, But it isn't just a padded cushion with a sad little cup holder.
Oh, it's way more involved than that.
It has clever hidden storage. It has rotating cup holders that accommodate different size bottles. And this is the kicker. It features slotted, articulated mounts for smartphones and tablets.
Which is genius.
Kids can watch videos completely hands-free.
That solves a very specific, universal pain point. Designers clearly observed how modern families actually behave on road trips.
Yeah, dropping screens is the worst.
Right. Keeping kids entertained without them dropping their iPads under the front seats every 10 minutes is a massive quality of life upgrade for the parents who are just trying to navigate traffic up front.
Combine that with a very usable 545-liter boot, and you have a car that is fundamentally built around the passenger. But, driving a heavy family box is a different story.
The physics of the thing.
This vehicle weighs 1,890 kilograms and stretches 4.47 meters long. How does it actually handle that burden on the road?
Well, the Australian review relies on one specific word to describe the driving dynamics, and that word is calm. Very calm.
Okay, I have to push back on that a little.
Fair enough.
In an EV market obsessed with sub-3 seconds 0 to 100 times and these crazy launch control modes, is calm actually just polite automotive journalist code for boring and sluggish?
It is a totally valid suspicion, especially since electric motors have completely warped our perception of standard acceleration. Like, we expect everything to be a rocket ship now. But let's look at the actual mechanics here. The long-range version packs an 87 kilowatt-hour battery paired with a 160 kilowatt motor. That gets you from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 7.9 seconds.
Which, okay, compared to a Tesla, feels like an absolute eternity.
True, but 7.9 seconds is still faster than most combustion engine family SUVs from just 5 years ago.
That's a good point.
It is more than adequate for merging onto a highway. The suspension is tuned softly to absorb broken city pavement, and the steering is light. The goal isn't to set a lap time on a track.
Right.
The goal is to prevent your passengers from getting carsick. A hyper-responsive throttle in a car full of toddlers and groceries is actually a huge liability.
Okay, the cruiser over sprinter philosophy makes total sense when you put it like that. But the trade-off for sacrificing that neck-snapping speed has to be endurance, right?
And that is exactly where the engineering pays off. Renault claims up to 625 kilometers of range on the strict WLTP testing cycle.
We should probably clarify the WLTP part for anyone who just, glazes over at acronyms. Good idea. The worldwide harmonized light vehicle test procedure is the current highly rigorous European standard. So when they say 625 kilometers, that isn't some wildly inflated fantasy number achieved by driving downhill in a vacuum.
No, not at all.
It is a highly realistic expectation for a mix of city and highway driving.
Precisely. For a family doing the daily school run, weekend sports, and a long holiday road trip, 625 kilometers is the metric that actually eliminates range anxiety.
That's a huge number.
It is. And they achieve this partly because 1890 kilograms is surprisingly light for an EV with a battery this large. Many competitors are pushing 2200 kilograms.
Wow, so it's significantly lighter.
Yeah, Renault kept the weight down by optimizing the battery packaging and making a very specific drivetrain choice. All three variants of the Scenic E-Tech are front-wheel drive only.
Wait, hold on. Front-wheel drive only. In a premium family SUV, when almost every competitor is throwing dual-motor, all-wheel drive setups at their vehicles, doesn't that feel like a massive corner being cut?
I know how it sounds.
I mean, if I'm putting my family in this for a winter road trip, I want maximum traction.
It definitely sounds like a downgrade on paper, but mechanically, it is a very calculated compromise.
Okay, how so?
Well, in a traditional gas car, front-wheel drive can struggle for grip because the engine weight is entirely up front. But in an EV, that massive 87 kilowatt-hour battery is distributed low across the floor pan.
Ah, so the center of gravity is different.
Exactly. You have excellent natural balance. Combined with sophisticated modern traction control systems, a front-wheel drive EV can handle rain and light snow incredibly well. By omitting the rear motor, Renault saved hundreds of kilograms of weight and thousands of dollars in manufacturing costs.
So they basically sacrificed the all-wheel drive edge case to guarantee that 625-kilometer daily range.
Precisely.
It reinforces that calm, predictable persona. But driving dynamics are really only half the story here. Here's where it gets really interesting, because Renault is making a massive bet that this car's primary value to a family might actually be when it is parked in the driveway.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the VVG hype.
Vehicle-to-grid capability. It is the concept that is absolutely dominating EV marketing right now.
The promise is that your driveway becomes a giant rolling power bank.
Right.
The car can theoretically send power from its massive battery back into your home to run your appliances during a blackout, or even sell electricity back to the local grid during peak demand times when prices are highest.
It's a very appealing concept.
It could literally pay you to own it.
And Renault is pushing this hard, stating they hope to see V2G practically usable for consumers within the next 12 months.
That soon.
That is bold, considering many legacy automakers are terrified of V2G because they just don't want the liability of accelerated battery degradation warranties.
It sounds like a complete game changer. But we need a serious reality check here,
Right.
because the commenters in the EV media articles do not miss a trick.
They really don't.
A user named V2H posted a highly technical breakdown that fundamentally changes how we should understand Renault's V2G rollout.
It is a crucial piece of technical clarification. V2H points out that it is highly misleading for any automaker to suggest a car has V2G, quote-unquote, out of the box.
Right. V2H explains that what the Scenic actually has built into the car is an 11 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt bidirectional AC charger.
The alternating current?
Yeah. The ability for power to flow both ways is there. But think of it like speaking different languages. The AC output from the car is speaking fluent French, but your house and the city power grid only understand German.
That's a great way to put it.
If you just rig a cable and plug them directly together, it is not just a miscommunication. It is a catastrophic short circuit that will result in a massive repair bill.
And this raises an important question about the friction between automotive marketing and the reality of consumer adoption.
Right, because they make it sound so easy.
Exactly. To make that bidirectional AC charger actually work, you need a sophisticated real-time translator. You need a substantial piece of external hardware installed on your house to synchronize the car's power frequency with the grid's frequency safely.
And V2H specifically mentions what that hardware is. You need an external V2G device, like the mobilized power box they're rolling out in France.
The commenter even points to a real-world proof of concept. The Dutch city of Utrecht has a trial slated for 2025 using Renault 5 rental cars equipped with a similar AC-based V2G setup.
Okay, so it does work.
The technology absolutely works, but it requires that dedicated, expensive external infrastructure at the charging location.
That distinction changes everything for the buyer. The car is ready to play, but you still have to buy a multi-thousand-dollar adapter to join the game.
Yep.
Automakers are selling a future promise that relies heavily on local grid regulations and expensive home installations that most consumers don't even know they need yet.
It is the messy reality of the energy transition right now. The vehicles are advancing faster than the infrastructure, and the legislation can accommodate them.
So what does this all mean for the person walking into a dealership today? We have explored this incredibly thoughtful, family-focused cabin. We debated the mechanics of its calm, lightweight front-wheel drive performance. We untangled the expensive reality hidden behind the V2G marketing.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. But we have to zoom out and ask, will people actually buy this? Especially when commenters, like one named Claxon Awuga, bluntly stated, quote, "The French can't cut it in our competitive market."
The ultimate test of all this engineering is the price tag. In Australia, the Scenic E-Tech is positioned between $55,990 and $65,990 plus on-road costs.
Which puts it right in the crosshairs of some incredibly aggressive, highly subsidized competition. But if you look at the global market, Australian buyers are actually getting a remarkable deal here.
The pricing strategy is fascinating. The review highlights that in the UK, the exact same vehicle starts at just under £37,000.
Wow.
If you do the conversion, that is over 70,000 Australian dollars.
That's a massive difference.
Renault is artificially compressing their profit margins in certain markets just to gain a foothold against the flood of new competitors.
And they are backing up that price with a giant, undeniable trophy. I mean, it didn't just casually win Car of the Year 2024 at the Geneva Motor Show. It dominated.
It really did.
A jury of 59 seasoned automotive journalists from across 22 countries awarded it 329 points.
The context of who it beat is what matters most here. It outscored the BMW 5 Series, which represents the pinnacle of traditional German luxury.
Yeah.
It beat the BYD Seal, which is the vanguard of hyper-affordable, high-tech Chinese manufacturing. And it beat the Volvo EX30.
Making it the 7th Renault vehicle to ever take on the title. How did a front-wheel drive family cruiser beat luxury sedans and high-tech disruptors?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Renault hit the exact Goldilocks zone for those journalists. They aren't trying to out-tech the startups with gimmicks, and they aren't trying to build a track car. They are selling a highly considered, anxiety-free transition to electric mobility. They are betting that millions of families don't actually want an iPad on wheels. They want a reliable, usable car from a brand with over a century of manufacturing history.
But history doesn't fix your car if it breaks down, which is their biggest hurdle in markets like Australia.
That's a real challenge.
The review points out that while everyone recognizes the Renault badge, their actual footprint of dealerships and service centers is relatively sparse compared to the incumbent brands.
Very true.
They're trying to sell European engineering and hoping that the heritage down to the little French flag stitched into the front seats and that cool Jean-Michel Jarre sound will reassure buyers to take a leap of faith.
It is the classic industry battle playing out in real time, legacy versus disruption. Can deep experience in building comfortable family cabins outweigh the flashy, attention-grabbing specs coming from newer, incredibly ambitious manufacturers?
That is the defining question for the entire automotive sector right now. And it brings us to the end of our journey today. We have unpacked how a brand rebelled against sterile spaceship interiors to create an eco-friendly living room.
Yeah.
We explored the physics of why a 1890-kilogram front-wheel drive setup is the secret to a 625-kilometer range. We translated the complex reality of bidirectional charging, and we examined how a sharply priced European champion is leveraging its heritage to survive.
But, stepping back from the specs and the market strategies, the Scenic E-Tech leaves us with something deeper to ponder about the future of transportation itself.
Oh, what are you thinking?
Well, if automakers are so successful at making the cabin feel exactly like a comfortable living room,
Right.
and the driving dynamics are engineered to be perfectly calm and unnoticeable, and the vehicle's primary financial value comes from acting as a stationary grid battery in your driveway, have we engineered the romance of driving entirely out of existence? Are we turning the automobile into just another household appliance, no different from a very expensive refrigerator that you happen to sit inside?
Wow. That is a phenomenal point. If the ultimate goal is zero friction and maximum utility, we might be witnessing the end of the car as a machine of freedom and the birth of the car as just another white good.
Exactly.
It is a brilliant thought to leave off on. And before we wrap up, we want to take a moment to explicitly say thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you to you, our listener, for coming along on this deep dive. Whether you are prepping for a meeting, looking for your next family car, or just insanely curious about how the world is changing, we know your time is valuable. We genuinely appreciate your curiosity and your desire to always keep learning alongside us.
It is always a privilege to unpack these complexities with you.
It really is. So next time you are walking through a parking lot and you hear what sounds like an avant-garde French synthesizer gliding into a spot, just smile. Because now you know the massive engineering and historical weight behind that quirky little sound. We will catch you on the next deep dive.